Hi everyone, and welcome to Otakusphere Weekly, Episode 2, Will You Be My Bread Buddy? That might not actually be the title, that's a working title, but, bread is just really important to me, you guys. I'm Karen, and with me tonight are Lifesong,
Hello.
Salvador,
Yo.
and LB making his debut this week.
Yay, hi.
So again, it is me and the mysterious gentleman. Just an additional mysterious gentleman has joined the fray. Okay, obviously we've got a lot to get to because a ton of spring shows just premiered on Crunchyroll and Funimation, among other places, but I wanted to spend a couple of minutes just saying goodbye to the winter 2016 season since we were talking about that last week. So, who has finished Dagashi Kashi? I have.
I saw 7 episodes, but I've seen enough where I know this show probably is going to end really good.
Okay, I don't want to spoil you then. All right.
Hey, we can still talk about it. I'm impervious to spoilers.
Do you have spoiler-proof armor?
Yes. Like, if someone spoils something for me, I won't be like, darn, I can't watch it anymore. I'm like, I just won't think about it, and then next time I partake in that medium, I'll find something else to enjoy about it, whether it's the ride or something else about it that I wasn't told about.
You just partition your mind. Like some kind of Zen monk sort of thing going on there. I finished the last episode of Dagashi Kashi, and it wasn't a very final feeling last episode, but that's probably because I believe the manga's still ongoing, and they probably want to do a second season if they can, but yeah.
If anything, that'll depend on the Blu-ray sales.
Yeah, right. But I continue to enjoy it. The last episode was basically just a normal episode, but, no need to fix what ain't broken, so... I will be looking forward to hearing about an announcement of Season 2 for that one, because I'm sure there's more candy they haven't talked about yet. Next show I'm moving on to, Myriad Colors Phantom World. I just finished this. Life, I know you didn't finish it, but you watched a bunch of it, right?
About halfway through now. I just got into it again last night, so I wasn't able to finish it.
Did you see the episode with the monkeys taking over the pool?
I have not seen the episode with the monkeys taking over the pool.
Oh man, I wanted to complain about it with you.
Go ahead.
Because what annoyed me about that episode is, well, not because it's a fan service episode, because that's the kind of show it is. It was going to happen. But because a couple of years ago, Beyond the Boundary did an episode with almost the exact same premise, except for Beyond the Boundary, again? That was like the best episode of the entire season. Like, they really made it work with the comic timing and everything, and this was just like a pale imitation of what they had already done, so... And butts. Monkey butts. Okay, I don't wanna go too far.
I wonder if that scene was in the source material, or if that was a Kyoani original episode.
It sounds like it would be a Kyoani original episode.
I could tell you that in Beyond the Boundary, they included that episode with the idols at the author's request.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, was that not in the source material for Beyond the Boundary?
I don't think it was. I'm pretty sure that was his request. He wanted him to put something fun in the middle of the show, and so they did that for his sake. I
swear to God, that was the best episode of the entire show, because they had that little mascot character. What the hell was it? Like a chinchilla or something? Like something unusual, and at one point they're all wearing gas masks, and like the chinchilla is wearing a little chinchilla-sized gas
that was
mask.
Great.
It was pretty awesome, let me tell you. Made it almost worth watching that show.
Aside from that, Karen, is Beyond the Boundary worth checking out? I forgot what you said about it in your final impression from way back.
I forgot what I said about it in my final impressions.
That probably says a lot right there.
Yeah, it wasn't everything I wanted it to be, but I still think on the whole it was a good show. It just wasn't a great show. It could have been more.
If there was a season 2, would you watch it again?
After having invested as much time in the first season, yeah, I'd feel pretty duty-bound to watch it. Oh yeah, and I did really like the main character in Beyond the Boundary, so that kind of tipped it over from meh to good for me.
I think if there were a season 2, they'd finally get to all the interesting stuff they hinted at in season 1.
We can only hope. I mean, it was popular, wasn't it?
Relatively popular. I mean, as far as a KyoAni fantasy show ever is.
Yeah. Well, maybe there'll be a season 2 of that, and it'll cross the threshold from being just decent to really good. We shall see. But speaking of crossing the threshold, in the last 2 episodes, Myriad Colors Phantom World decided to have a plot. It's kind of adorable. They just, at the last minute, they were like, you know what? We have not had an actual story for this whole anime. We don't want to, just let that go completely. Let's have a 2-episode arc. So, and It was a little bit rushed because it was only 2 episodes, but I thought it ended the show in a satisfactory way. So even though it kind of became, the show to hate for some reason this season, in the end I'm glad I watched it. And that I don't know if I would watch season 2 just because I don't know if there's really a whole lot more material to mine there. Because it seemed like they were kind of digging even halfway through the first season. But it was still enjoyable. What about you, Life? Are you going to finish it?
I'm definitely going to finish it. I'm actually surprised at how much I'm enjoying it. Like, I expected to like it, but I've been liking it a good deal. I really like episode 4 in particular.
Well,
the whole episode where they get into the bus.
Oh yeah, with the bunny family.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was cool. That was like surreal fun time. Is there a trend of like anime buses being good lately? Noticing a trend.
There's a trend of evil things being good arbitrarily in anime, just in general.
Wasn't there like a folklore or supernatural tale with buses in Japan? Because I swore I've seen like a bus theme like that in other shows as well too.
Sailor
Well, there's
Moon
that
did it.
Ghibli movie, however it's pronounced. And I haven't seen it, so I'm going to prove my ignorance now.
Let's see. There was something else I wanted to say about Phantom World, and I may not get another opportunity. Oh yeah, and Marchiosa, the little dog with angel wings. I like him.
Oh
yeah, he's awesome. He reminds me a lot of like Koromaru from Persona 3.
Yeah, that's right, actually.
Oh yeah. I didn't make that connection at first, but now that you've said it, yeah.
Yeah, because they're both Shiba Inus and they both have little wings.
Yeah. Oh, and I just thought there was one joke in that show that made me actually like guffaw out loud, but it's from an episode that at least Lifesong hasn't seen yet, so I don't want to spoil it. But next time we'll commiserate about the one joke I laughed about.
All right.
Okay. Anything else from the winter 2016 season people want to talk about before I just close out with a couple of things I finished that I know only I finished because only I would watch them?
Go ahead. Unless if Life says otherwise, or LB says otherwise.
Oh no, I've been so focused on the new stuff, I barely remember what I finished.
So I finished Lovely Muco, which was a short. It's about 10 minutes long. It's a 26-episode series about a little dog, and it had kind of cheap animation, but cheap animation in a way that kind of worked for the subject matter. I thought it was just very, very cute. And basically, the reason why I watched it, well, other than the fact that it was cute, and I just like cute things in general, is that the dog on the show reminds me of my mother-in-law's dog, and it just kind of like seems like if you really could hear what dogs were thinking, they would probably be thinking what Muco is thinking. So it just seemed like whoever made the show like had a real love and knowledge of dogs. So it's not really very funny. Like, I think it's ostensibly a comedy, but it's really, you don't really laugh. It's just cutesy. But considering it was a short, I did not mind spending 26 episodes with Muco and friends. One bad thing about Lovely Muco is that the veterinarian was like a really over-the-top, campy, aggressive gay guy, and it's kind of like anime is one of the few places where it seems they still think that stereotype is totally okay. So it just sort of like stuck out like a sore thumb whenever he was on. And in the final episode, he just decides he's in love with one of the other male characters and starts hitting on him, and it's basically assault. So. So trigger warning, but other than that, it's a fun show. I also finished JK Meshi, which was another short, and this one was really short, about 3 minutes per episode, and I'm assuming that no one has watched any of that, right?
Nope.
Yeah, you're not missing anything at all. It is terrible. Now, this one has really cheap animation that, unlike Lovely Muco, it doesn't work for the source material. It just looks really, really cheap, like they spent 5 minutes in anime studio making it sort of deal. And it's like 2 minutes, these girls talk about something completely unrelated, and then for the last minute, they cook a snack, and that's the show. And you may be wondering, if it's so awful and so poorly animated, why did I even watch it? It just goes to show I will watch any food anime. Like, I think on my anime list, I'm probably going to give this anime a 2, but I actually watched all 26 episodes of it, so go me, I guess.
Oh yeah, speaking of anime shorts, Karen, did you ever watch any episodes of this one called Galco-chan?
That sounds really familiar. Which one is that?
I haven't watched it, but I think from the premise I heard, I think it has like that Chubra type of feel to it. just with 3 girls just discussing like girl-related things and certain topics.
Oh, that was the show like called like Please Ask Me Galko-chan or something like that?
Yes. It was also done by the same studio who did Dagashi Kashi.
Oh, cool. Okay, you know what? I did not know what that was, but thanks to your information, I'm going to check it out. Assuming I have time.
And it's actually, and like with lovely Muco and JK Meshi, they're shorts as well, and I think it's only 12 episodes, so it should be easy for you to marathon it, and it's on Crunchyroll as well too.
Okay, so that's gonna be. I'll definitely watch that then. If it's anything like Chubra, I owe it to myself to watch.
Yeah. Because I think the interesting thing about it, from what I heard, like each of the girls are like from different groups. Like I think one was, I try to remember what that was called in Japan, but the type of girl that wears like the tan like makeup. Yeah.
Ganguro?
One of them's a Ganguro. One of them I think is an otaku. I forgot what the third one was.
Okay, well, I will watch it and I will find out. So thank you for that recommendation. Because sometimes, like, you just hear the name of a show or see it referred to, but you just never end up finding out what it is. But just hearing you talk about it, I'm like, oh, I would probably want to watch that. So okay, so we're saying farewell to the winter 2016 season, a season I did not really do justice to, but hopefully that changes now. Hopefully that changes with spring. So I thought we'd start with The Lost Village, aka the one with the bus. Everyone watched this, right?
I plan
except
to.
for you, Sal. I'm sorry, I forgot what you told me already.
Because I heard that the director of this series is the same guy who did Girls and Panzer and Shirobako. So seeing him work with Mario Kata, that's going to be a very interesting chemistry. So I'm going to see how that turns out.
Okay, so we'll wait for you to chime in on The Lost Village in subsequent episodes. But for now,
which Karen? Watch Shirobako.
What about Shirobako?
If you got to watch it.
I freaking love Shirobako, but
Yay.
Sal, we have a problem. If you keep prompting me to talk about shows I love, this podcast will be 45 hours long. You know what though? I think as this podcast goes on and as the deluge of new spring anime thins, like we can start doing theme episodes. Like we can do an Assassination Classroom episode, we can do a Shirobako episode, so we can go back. We don't only have to talk about what's airing this season.
That was my all-time favorite show of last year, since that was the year it ended.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, but we'll definitely save that for another day. Okay, LB, since you are new to the podcast this week, do you want to start with your thoughts on The Lost Village? Start wherever you want, because there's a lot to say on this show.
Yeah, there totally is. Basically, when I was looking through the charts to see, what I was interested in this season, I missed this the first time I looked through the chart, and then, like, the second or third time I looked through it, it caught my attention, and it was like, okay. So, I read the plot synopsis. It sounded pretty good. I didn't really know much about the cast or crew. I just saw, 30 potential victims, which caught my attention right away. But basically, I got pretty much what I expected out of this first episode. I figured that with 30 characters, that it was going to be mostly just introductions, and that's pretty much what I got. There's a really solid air of mystery around this one that I'm really digging on. I'm not ready to commit fully to this, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more. The reaction from people on Twitter is a little interesting to me, though, because a lot of people, because of the wide variety of characters that are introduced, I saw a lot of people who were saying that they were having trouble taking it seriously, and that, it was going to be the best unintentional comedy of the year.
Wait. Can I butt in for a sec? The show has satirical tone to it, clearly. So if you're saying, oh, I can't take it seriously, aren't you kind of missing the point?
Agreed.
Yeah, so it just kind of struck me, as kind of interesting, the reactions that I was seeing. But, like I said, I think there's a solid, air of mystery about it. I'm looking forward to seeing, who dies first. Personally, my prediction is it's either the bus driver or the tour host.
It just better not be Soy Latte. I like Soy Latte. She is my friend. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that either the bus driver or the tour host. Those are my predictions for the first ones who are going to bite it.
Oh man, it didn't even occur to me we should have like a pool going for this, but I don't really have a good prediction.
Oh man.
Okay.
I was surprised no one died in the first episode.
Yeah, right. Actually,
so from the looks of it, are they implying that the people on the bus are like some sort of cult?
Not really. and this is one of those cases where you just have to see the episode. Because if I try to explain it, I'm just going to make an ass of myself. But you know what? I think there's an alternate universe somewhere where the bus driver actually drove them off a cliff and they all died and went to the afterlife. And somewhere in another universe, Mari Okada is writing that anime. But that's not the anime we got. Life, what did you think of this one?
Man, LB pretty much covered it. There really isn't that much more to say. They were all off their rocker. Everyone on the show is crazy. They're either crazy or you don't know anything about them, which just means that they haven't shown how crazy they are yet.
Right. What kind of surprised me about this one is I really wasn't expecting that kind of darkly satirical tone, probably just because I knew it was Okada, and I don't think of her as kind of having that edge to her, but there's definitely a lot of social commentary in this one, and that really drew my interest to begin with. And it's kind of sad that a lot of people apparently aren't getting that. But we'll see. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm overselling the social commentary aspect, and that's going to dwindle as the show goes on. Or maybe people just aren't noticing. I don't know.
I'm noticing it, but I'm not sure what they're doing with it. Like, are they actually making social commentary, or are they just bringing these things up to be edgy? I think it's hard to say. Yeah,
too early to tell. I wanted to mention one thing, though. The girl who, I can't remember names at this point, but the girl who was doing the thing with the vending machine, where she was like, oh, I've got to hold my breath or else the vending machine, or else something bad will happen, and then she's explaining the other thing she does. A lot of people might not realize that's actually OCD. Like, they might think it's just a generic weirdness, but that is actually things you do when you have OCD, and similar to things I have done in the past. So, my husband and I were watching the show, and then she started doing that, and he kind of did a long, slow head turn. And I was like, honey, I don't know why. I don't know why I'm on this show. They did not consult me. So.
There's one other point that I want to kind of bring up and get everyone's thoughts on, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The hippopotamus song. Did anybody else find that, like, oddly creepy, or what were your thoughts on that hippopotamus song? Because it just kind of, it was just one of those random things where I was watching it and they were all singing this incredibly chirpy song with incredibly depressing lyrics, and it was just one of those weird things for me, and I'm like, okay.
That was the aspect of it that did make it feel culty.
Well, see, I had an I think, maybe interesting take on it because, I'm now in a stage of my life where I'm singing nursery rhymes, and some nursery rhymes are pretty goddamn messed up. So,
oh, yeah, they are.
Like, rockabye baby, blah, 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 the baby falls out of the tree, really? I mean, this stuff is pretty darn sick, really. So, it just kind of, seemed more like social commentary to me, like, oh, all those chirpy, happy songs where you actually listen to the lyrics, they make you want to kill yourself. It just seemed to me like it was an extreme version of that. So
okay, I wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that.
I thought it was interesting to note how the protagonist at one point points out, it's like, well, it doesn't matter if we all get close. It's not like we're family or actually know each other or anything like that. Just the tone that kind of set. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting how some of the characters have these kind of ambitions, like, oh, I'm going to be the new Eve in the new Garden of Eden, and some people are just like, this is a half-baked social experiment that I'm not invested in, even though I'm here, so it's interesting.
Right. The bus driver was the best character.
Yeah, that's, I like the fact that, they all want to get away from society, because, oh, society's so horrible, and oh, I had to fight with my friends, and now my life is hard, blah. I'll run away from society. And the bus driver is like, you're all like friggin' 12. You don't know anything.
That's also why he's going to die first. He's already played his hand.
Okay, so is the bus driver going to die first in our pool? Is that how we're taking it?
I'm guessing that the bus driver will die first.
Okay, I'm just guessing that the OCD girl is going to die first because that would be personally devastating for me. So that's my guess.
I actually will bet that she's one of these survivors, if there are any at all.
See, I'm playing a mind game with myself, where if I say she's going to die, then she'll probably live, so, yeah. Okay. This is what life with OCD is like, folks. So, are we done with The Lost Village for this week?
Okay. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'll definitely be coming to that one in subsequent weeks, which moves us on to something completely different, Re:Zero. This was interesting because it was a double premiere. It was 2 back-to-back episodes. And, I'm not completely sold on this yet, but I did like it. It could just be coming off of watching all of Erased in a really short period of time, and then seeing another show with, like, time travel hijinks. I might not have been ready for it, but, I did enjoy it. The only problem I was having is that it bothered me that the main character didn't figure out that he was time traveling. And the thing is, in context, it totally makes sense that he wouldn't figure that out. But it's just having seen so many time travel shows, it's like, come on, dude, you have to know you've time traveled. Mm-hmm. So I was like basically holding it against him for not being genre savvy enough.
Along with that point, I mean, he didn't figure it out, especially in the beginning when he first warps over and he's talking about how, oh, now I'm in a fantasy world and I'm going to have magic and I'm going to be the hero. And it's just a major trope like that happens and it doesn't click in his head.
I think there's a good explanation, actually. And it's, if you're in a fantasy world like that and you die and then, you're alive, you assume that you've resurrected. Because that's what would normally happen in an RPG.
That's true. You would assume that you've resurrected, but your contact up to a certain point has been saved. So you don't, yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily assume time travel until you have a reason to assume time travel.
Yeah. What'd you think of it, Life?
I liked it a lot. The production values in particular, really, really caught my eye. I can really tell they're trying to sell it.
Yeah.
And that probably counts for more than anything else for me at the moment, because I don't really, I don't know that much about it. I wasn't sure what to expect going into it. Like, watching the first half of it, I'm like, oh, this is like Konosuba. And then everything goes horribly wrong. Like, oh, this is not like Konosuba at all. I don't know if any of you watched that.
I saw the first episode. I'm watching, like, piecemeal things that I missed.
Oh, wasn't it a fantasy show, Life, Konosuba?
It's a similar idea. The character dies in the first episode, and he goes to a fantasy world. So, I mean, the basic idea is the same, except that everything about it is a comedy.
The first 5 minutes had me a little confused and a little concerned because basically, he just comes out of the convenience store, then boom, he's in a fantasy world. No real rhyme or reason. It just kind of happens. So that had me a little confused. I was a little worried that I wasn't sure what they were doing at that point. But then once about halfway through the first half of that first episode, because, they posted it in 2 different episodes, even though it was one long episode, I was really starting to get into it. I really enjoyed the details. I'm really intrigued to see more. I admit, Satella made my little otaku heart swoon a little bit.
Aw.
Yeah, I was really digging on her, so I'm really curious what they do with her in the future.
Okay, cool. Like I said, I'm not completely sold on it just because I don't even know why. Maybe it just needs a few more episodes to click, possibly. But definitely gonna be watching next week, and I'm curious to see if now if he's figured out what's going on. Because you would think by now he might be starting to get it. Okay, we done with ReZero for this week?
Sure.
Okay, moving on to, again, something completely different and very interesting, I thought. Joker game. And I don't know what I was expecting from this show, but it was not this, because I kind of expected them to be holding the pre-World War II setting at arm's length, which they arguably are kind of still doing, but still, it seemed like they were kind of actually using that setting instead of running away from it, and that impressed me. LB, what'd you think of this one?
I didn't hate it, but I'm certainly not ready to say that I love it yet either. I thought it was really well written. It's definitely not something that I usually watch. I openly admit I usually watch things that are really light, really fluffy, really colorful. This was really slow, methodical, other adjectives that mean basically the same thing. So I'd like to see another couple of episodes before I decide one way or the other how I really feel about it. But this first episode, I kind of wish that they had done the same thing that they had done with ReZero and just posted 1 hour-long episode rather than just a half-hour episode. This one, I feels like I needed to see that the second half.
It was clearly a part 1 of 2.
Oh yeah, it was even labeled as such.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like I need to see that part 2 before I can say if I really like it or if I'm not digging on it. But the first half, yeah, it was definitely interesting. And you even warned me ahead of time, Karen, that it might not be in my wheelhouse, but I was hearing really good things about it. And yeah, so this is definitely something that I'm going to at least watch another couple of episodes of.
Okay, good, because I thought it might be so far out of your normal, LB Happy Zone, you might watch it and be like, no thank you, you know. But I'm glad you'll be on board for at least another couple episodes so we can discuss it, because I'm really interested in it right now. Actually, I'm probably most interested in this show out of anything this season so far, which was not what I thought going into it last week. Life, what did you think of this one?
I loved it. I especially loved the mentality of the spies and the way it kind of plays off the protagonist and his nationalistic, I need to do everything for the honor of Japan. And I thought it was particularly interesting that they're sitting there commenting on how the philosophy of the Japanese people will completely switch around if they lose the war, which of course we obviously know happened.
Yeah.
And I think that in general, I also was very surprised to see them tackling the attitude. I don't know if you all realize, probably do. It's the year that it's set in the year that Japan invaded China.
Yeah.
They didn't touch on that in the show, but that's a kind of a statement already that they're not afraid to do that.
That means that it's probably going to reach some really dark territories if they touch upon that topic.
I think they're actually okay, because if it's going to do what I think it's going to do, it's going to set itself aside so that it can make comments on it from a sort of outside position. Because the spies and the whole spy theme seems to be, we're not really part of nationalistic Japan. We're here. We're working for them.
Yeah.
But we're not a part of the Imperial Army. We didn't go to their school. We don't buy into their propaganda. And I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah, it's really interesting how they've managed to, a Japanese studio is managing to tell a story about Japan of that time and kind of look at it askance and comment on it ironically, but at the same time, I think, I'm not sure if I can think of the right word. I don't think they're being ungenerous to the time period either. Like, I think you're supposed to have some sympathy for the main character. Like, look, that's how he was raised. He doesn't know the way the next, 10 years are going to go. He can't know.
Yeah. I think he actually had a pretty, I thought he was interesting. I obviously we know his opinions are flawed. They're built that way. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting overall, the whole presentation. I remember him going in and having the explanation of the game, and I'm like, this reminds me of me and my buddies playing Munchkin. This is what's going on when we're playing. I know what's happening.
I think that's more of a commentary on you and your buddies.
Oh man, Munchkin is amazing.
Isn't it?
Glad to encounter another Munchkin player. Like, I used to play it a lot in school.
How did you guys segue onto this?
Anyway. It's a card game.
I know.
Yeah.
I've actually played Munchkin too. Maybe someday we'll get together and we'll do live Otakusphere Munchkin. It'll be
it'll be awesome.
As long as no one pulls out the blender and blends every single Munchkin set, because a friend of mine did that and the game lasted for hours upon hours.
Anyway, Sal.
Yeah.
going back to Joker game.
Sorry.
No problem. To me, the real question with the show is how well are they going to leverage that setting? Because they did a really good job in the first episode of striking just the right tone, but we know it's kind of going to be a little bit off in its own world because they're kind of doing spy games, and that's probably going to be aside from the invasion of China. That's going to be aside from, most of the major action of World War II. But is it going to end up kind of being in its own universe where the political stuff doesn't matter, or are they going to continue to be able to leverage that setting successfully? So I'm really, really interested to see how they kind of thread that needle. Yeah,
I'll be disappointed if they don't.
Yeah, this one's going to be really disappointing if it just kind of becomes a generic spy anime. I mean, I have high hopes that won't happen, but
I think that won't happen. At least, I mean, it might be. It might end up being terrible, but I don't think it'll be terrible in the typical anime way. And the one main reason I have for saying that is it's not actually based off a light novel. It's based off, a novel.
It's based off a novel.
It's based off a real novel.
Yeah, or like a real book. Oh, speaking of which, another hope. I just looked it up, and apparently the original book actually received some awards for being the best mystery series at its time. So,
yeah, it did win an award. I forget which one.
So
yeah.
That's hope that Joker Game will be a good show of the season.
One more thing I want to say before we let Joker Game go for this week is that I just recently read Neil Stephenson's Cryptonomicon, which, despite what you might think from the title, most of the book actually takes place during that era. And this show reminded me of a conversation that two soldiers have. It's one American Marine and one Japanese soldier. And it's late in the war. It's like 1944. And the American soldier says, "Look, don't you Japanese guys realize by now that these suicide attacks don't work, that they're stupid?" And the Japanese soldier thinks about it and he says, "Yes, but everyone who knows that died in a suicide attack." So I just couldn't help
interesting.
couldn't help thinking that the whole time I was watching the show.
Yeah, well, that's actually, I mean, they have the character set up to kill himself at the beginning of next episode, so we'll see how that goes, how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I don't think he's gonna kill himself, but we'll see.
Probably not,
Yeah.
but it'll be interesting to see how they deal with it.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on from the surprisingly intriguing Joker game to Macross, and I confess I completely forgot there was a new Macross anything this season, so I'm gonna defer to whoever actually watched it, which was help me.
Me
Lifesong.
and Sal?
I didn't get to watch it, but I can still comment on some stuff.
I
Oh,
love how Sal's totally game to whether he's watched it or not. It's like it's totally irrelevant.
Well, I have a good chunk of experience with the Macross franchise. Like I watched the original, I watched Plus, I saw bits and
More
pieces
than
of
I do.
7, and I watched all of Frontier and its films.
Oh,
So-
I am not questioning your Macross knowledge.
Once I finish all of 7 and Macross Zero, I'll probably fully caught up with the franchise. But I have yet to achieve that goal that a lot of anime fans have achieved.
Okay, so how was this Macross Lifesong?
It's utterly ridiculous. I'm not really sure what to. I'm not sure what to think. They've taken dancing, singing idols, given them magical powers that cure and cause insanity, and like these giant people are going crazy when people start singing, or going sane again when they start singing.
Wait,
And then there's
are the giants a Zentradi or a different race?
no, they're the Zentradi. I just didn't want to sound foolish and pronounce it wrong. So thank you for that. Yeah, and I don't even know that you get to the ending and the main character hijacks a mech of some kind, and he's breakdance. He's
Was it a
breakdance.
Valkyrie? Was it a Valkyrie ship fighter?
I can't tell
Or
you. You'll have to
FX?
watch the episode. It's one of the ones that transforms. Does that
Yeah,
help?
the ones that turn to the plane, right?
Yeah. It
They're
looks one
called
of
the
those.
Valkyries. So.
Okay, so it's a Valkyrie, and he's breakdance fighting while he's holding the idol in his hand, and she's singing, and then there's this whole floating naked orgasm thing that happens, and
Wait,
I don't even
what?
know.
They're going into like Aquarion territory.
Yeah, well, it's the same creator. It's yes.
Okay, would
I-
anyone
I-
be upset if I just said I don't think I'm watching this?
I probably make it sound worse than it actually is. It's just ridiculous. It's,
I'm hoping that it's maybe more like Macross 7, but with idols, because like in 7 they had the main character like controlling a Valkyrie fighter with an actual electric guitar, and he shoot like these little devices out the people's ships so that they can listen to his music while two forces are fighting each other, and he's just dodging bullets while just playing random tunes.
yeah. I'll say too that the whole thing has a very serious tone to it, despite everything that I just said.
What? I don't get
Yeah,
this.
I don't either.
All right, so it doesn't have the Macross 7 tone, where Macross 7 had a very comedic, ridiculous tone.
It's every bit as ridiculous as what you just said, but they're taking it seriously.
Attention, Otakusphere Weekly listeners. This is the part where Life and Sal go on this Macross-related tangent that I really don't understand at all. It's like they're speaking a foreign language. I thought of cutting it out, but that seemed mean. So I'm just gonna leave it here. Enjoy.
Did they introduce the Zentradi chick who had like I think maroon hair? She has like pointy ears.
The elf.
Yeah, she's also a Zentradi, but she's just in the human size form. She's she's the daughter.
Right?
She's the daughter of one of the daughters of a character from the original series, Maximilian Genius, and his Zentradi wife, Myriad or Melia.
I have to say that, yes, I discovered that. I didn't know who the original character was, but a buddy of mine explained all that to me. And, oh man, that's probably the worst name joke I have ever experienced. It's genius spelled wrong.
Yeah, with a J. Sadly, in the Robotech version, I think they changed his name so that joke, that pun, wasn't in the Robotech version.
It's just the most cringeworthy name joke I've ever seen.
I don't know. I thought it was awesome. Just the name was Maximilian Genius, and in the original show, he was actually a badass and a genius.
I want to know if they did it on purpose or if it was an actual mistake.
I think it was on purpose.
Let's say it was, for their sake.
I mean, in the original series, there were two Zentradi characters who, when you combine their names, it's actually a spin on the word Lolicon.
Oh wow.
We now return to whatever passes for normal around here. Okay, so moving on to Kuma Miko. This had surprisingly more bestiality jokes than I was expecting. I did enjoy this quite a bit. I felt like it was maybe missing something though. Maybe it felt like it was shorter than it was or something. Maybe didn't have enough jokes or something. But I still liked the premise, and I still thought it was cute and looking forward to where it was going. LB, did you get a chance to pick this one up?
I did. I watched the first episode earlier today, and I agree with you. My big solid note that I wrote for this is, how can this series be so cute and yet so twisted? It was really adorable for the first 50-75% of it. I really liked it. I was laughing at it. I thought it was really cute. And then they told a story about the bear and the sacrificial woman mating and having bear children, and it was like, okay, that was a change of tone.
Wow. So before that, did it actually give you that Gigitsune vibe, Karen, or nah? Yeah,
it did actually. Not like, it wasn't really reminiscent of that show. I mean, I guess it was anything with a Miko in it and like a animal that talks. It's gonna be somewhat similar, but Gigitsune did not have the bestiality references. No, it did not. So we're in uncharted territory here.
I will say that those jokes are a lot faster in the manga. I think it's one panel.
Oh, and they kind of dragged it out in the anime?
I don't know so much that they dragged it out, but they told the whole story, and actually him reading out the whole story took more time than the one manga panel it was in the original.
I see. Well, there's actually a couple of jokes on the same theme, because after they tell the story, that someone asks the main character, well, like, have you got it on with the bear? And then there's like a little cartoon picture of them having special time.
Right.
Yeah,
no,
that was another
I think that was all.
little...
I think that was all there. I don't know. It didn't stand. It was one of those things. You see it in the anime, you're like, oh wow, that stands out a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't bother me. I wasn't like, wow, this is upsetting or anything. I just was like, wow, did not expect them to go there. That
was surprising. Yeah, I had forgotten about it, so I saw. I was like, oh right, that happened.
Do you think that was like a one-off, and it's gonna just be cute and innocent for the rest of its run? Maybe
it is. It's not really innocent. That's the wrong word for it. But it is. It is generally on the more cute side, from what I read. I actually haven't read that far into it. It was brand new when I first found it.
Okay, and what did you think of it in general, Lifesong? I don't think I've asked you yet.
I enjoyed it. I thought I'd like it more than I did, but I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to more of it.
Yeah, I think we're both in the same boat that, like, we expected to like it and we did, but it was like, okay, still waiting.
Like,
could be something more here.
Like, I know a few things, like, I can point out, like, in the original, like, the opening sequence of the manga, I really got the feeling that they were selling the whole, these are a bunch of hicks. And I didn't get that immediately from the anime. And then even the last joke of the opening sequence of the manga gets cut off at the anime. And I'm like, I remember that being one of the funniest parts of one of the funnier moments. And it kind of makes me stop and question if the director or the team or someone who's running things really know what they've got their hands on. I can only speculate.
Okay, so hopefully subsequent episodes will take the good jokes from the manga and maybe go a little lighter on the bestiality. I know bestiality is kind of like a harsh way to put it, because that's not really... It's just kind of like the mythic story of, okay, people and bears fell in love and had little bear children, but I don't know.
I think the problem is that the joke was actually that the teacher is a crude hick, and that didn't come through in the anime.
Yeah, it really didn't. You're right, it didn't seem like that. So we'll keep up with Girl Meets Bear and hope it behaves itself, for the most part. Moving on to Cerebrus. I wasn't liking this at first. It just seemed like another generic fantasy anime to me. But then by the end, it was kind of winning me over, and I can't really say why. I guess just because the reveal that, the dude who we assume is going to be a badass swordsman actually isn't that badass, and he needs, like, his grandpa or whatever to look after him. It's like, oh, okay, I can sort of... This isn't as formulaic as I thought it was going to be. So, I'm not in love with it, but I'm intrigued enough that I'll probably keep watching it for a little while. What'd you think, Life?
I enjoyed it. At least in a general sense, the protagonist has this joking smile on his face the whole time, like he's not entirely serious about all the stuff that he's doing. So I'm just kind of sitting there watching it. I'm like, are they going somewhere with this? And then they get to the end, and he pulls the sword out of his giant sheath, and it's this little knife.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, they did go somewhere with that. So I enjoyed it. I wasn't blown away, or I wouldn't even really say that I was all that impressed, but it could go somewhere. It might be fun. I know that it's completely anime. Well, it's based off of a social game. So any story they're going to tell, I assume, is essentially anime original.
Kind of like that one show you watched in 2012, Live Ixion Saga.
Oh, that was also yes. This seems to be a little more serious than Ixion Saga. I'd compare it to
Maybe Rage of Bahamut, because I know that
Rage
one
of
was
Bahamut.
also based off of social game, but the show had nothing to do with the game, and it was actually this really badass, serious fantasy anime.
Rage of Bahamut was actually really good, and I was hoping that the same thing would happen with this, and maybe it will as it develops. But I mean, the first episode, like Rage of Bahamut, I went to the first episode and I came out blown away. I definitely didn't have that experience with Cerebrus.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that one too. That's probably, I mean, I do have a pretty impressive list of shows I want to go back to and catch up on at some point, and that's definitely on it.
And the good news is that Bahamut's only 12 episodes.
Yeah. I do appreciate that.
And there's a second season in the works too. So
There is.
One thing with Cerebrus is that the heart imagery kind of freaked me out because I have a phobia of that. So again, this is another one I'm watching with my husband, and he does a slow head turn, and I was like, I didn't know it was going to be like this. but it's okay. For the sake of the podcast, I will soldier on and deal with my phobia, and I don't know, take a bunch of meds or something.
Speaking of which, Karen, have you ever gotten a chance to watch any anime with your daughter yet?
She liked Dagashi Kashi. I mean, I try not to have the TV on in front of her too much because they really say you're not supposed to with young babies, but sometimes we can't help it because the living room is her playroom. So, once when I was watching Dagashi Kashi and she was playing on the mat, and then whenever Hotaru would speak, she would just start going
Aww.
So, and although I think the show she really likes is CSI Miami.
Oh, that's funny.
Because Wilson went through a phase where he'd watch that when he came home from work. He'd just watch the old episodes on Hulu or Netflix or whatever, and he'd just, have her sitting on his lap, and she'd just be looking at the screen, mystified. And I think it's just because the colors are really bright, so she'd be like, ooh, orange. But enough about me, because if you start me talking about Gwen, come to My Little Baby podcast. And I'll become a mommy blogger. It won't be pretty. Okay. So let's move on from Cerebrus to My Hero Academia, which a lot of people online seem to like this. It didn't quite click for me. I didn't think it was bad. I just wasn't really feeling it either way. LB, is this one the ones you caught?
I actually don't intend to watch this one because I've heard great things about the first episode, but I've read a couple of volumes of the manga and I just didn't care for the story. So I just had no intention of checking it out. I might watch it, if everyone keeps going on and on and on about how great it is, I'll give it a chance to see if the anime version catches my attention. But yeah, when I read the manga, I just was not into it at all.
That's fair. So you have a reason for not watching it. You're not just being an anime snob.
No, like I said, I read the first 2 volumes of the manga, and yeah, the story just didn't really grab me.
If I remember correctly, Viz was the one that brought over the manga since it ran in Jump, right?
Yeah, Viz brought it over.
It seems like it would be in Jump. Light, what did you think of it?
First, I'll say superhero stories in general usually don't grab me. So I kind of had that thought going into it, but I kind of felt like it hit all the right notes. It's not something I'm necessarily all that interested in, but I felt like it was doing everything right.
Yeah, it's like it was doing everything right with a premise I didn't particularly care for. So it was
exactly.
It was impossible for me to dislike it, but I don't really like it either. But I like it enough that I don't mind watching another episode or two.
I kind of feel like I could write out the whole plot line and I'd be 99% right. So there's nothing really interesting about it to me.
Yeah. Well, okay, maybe I should be able to predict this, but I'm not entirely sure how they're going to show him fighting off supervillains when he doesn't have any superpowers, because I'm pretty sure he's not just going to pull out a Gatling gun. I don't think that would match
you're
the tone
talking
of the
about
show.
the main character?
Yeah.
Oh wait, so the
I
big
suspect
thing,
he will
so the
have a
big thing
superpower.
hasn't happened to him yet. Okay, like LB knows what it is, but I don't know if I want to say it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything.
Oh, wait a minute. Does he get superpowers? Because that would just ruin
He's
the
gonna
whole
get
show.
superpowers. I haven't seen it. I'm not spoiling. I haven't seen
Alright.
it. But I would. I bet money that he
You're
will
right
get
about that,
superpowers.
Karen. However, the way he gets them, it's
Sal, did you actually watch this episode, or are you just speaking from experience with the manga?
out of curiosity, I looked up the manga, and that was in the basic premise where it says, like, this guy is the only kid without any superpowers in a world where everyone has superpowers, and then it kind of gives a brief of how he kind of gets his powers.
The premise.
Yeah, the basic
That's
premise, the basic summary for it.
That's a
kinda
spoiler
said it.
right there.
Huh. I'm kind of, I don't know. Now I'm like kind of annoyed because it's not like I had high hopes for it, but I was like, well, if they've come up with some really creative way for him to fight supervillains without any superpowers, that might be kind of interesting.
Well,
but now it's like,
let's just
that's
say,
not
let's
happening.
just say there's a sacrifice in when he gets these powers. Like, there's a sacrifice involved.
I could guess what that is. I don't even. Yeah. Oh, that's awful.
Alrighty then.
I will say this: if it winds up being an utter disappointment, we can all just go. You can all just go read Steelheart, which actually takes the same type of idea, where normal people, are fighting superheroes because all the superheroes in Steelheart are evil. That's a book series, but it goes with that premise really well.
Interesting. I had not heard of that. Okay.
Oh yeah, speaking of heroes, like, what do you all think of One Punch Man from last year?
Dead
I liked
silence. No.
No,
I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than I just thought it was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that I missed that during my pregnant, all I can do is think about cookies phase, so, yeah. Again, I've long list of shows I may or may not catch up with, and One Punch Man's on it. Okay, so moving on to Endride. Now, I know LB would like to rant about this one a little bit. I don't know why, but I'm curious to hear why. So.
This is gonna be good.
No pressure or anything.
Hey, I'm excited. What can I say? I want to hear you rant.
Okay,
Yes.
well, honestly, within 2 minutes of the stream starting, and I'm not saying like 2 minutes of anime, I mean like halfway through the opening theme song. After a while, do you get like kind of that tingling sensation, that anime instinct that says, okay, this may not be right for me?
I don't get that, but I think I kind of got it this time because you had already hinted at it.
Yeah, within 2 minutes, I was getting that tingling feeling of, okay, I may not like this. But I wanted to be fair, I wanted to give it a chance. So I kept watching. By the halfway mark, I was so bored. Oh, I was bored.
Once again, LB, it was like you felt this during the beginning of the anime's opening song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's
you know,
pretty.
it
That's
was
pretty
just-
damning.
I just got that instinct of, because they had that little introduction before the op, and yeah, I mean, just during that introduction, I was like, okay, this has potential to be very boring, and yeah. By halfway through the episode, I was white knuckling it, but I was like, you know what? Maybe they'll do something really interesting in the last couple of minutes. They'll throw in this big twist, and it'll be interesting and make me want to watch the rest of the series. No.
Well,
No.
in the last couple of minutes, they threw in a little stuffed animal thing that looks kind of like a carbuncle from Final Fantasy VIII, so there's that.
I would say the whole thing reminded me of Final Fantasy. I mean, they even have crystals.
True. I will say that I actually liked the first couple of minutes. Like, here's my thing with the show. Like, when it was just about him, that okay, he's the son of an archaeologist. She left being an archaeologist to raise him. He's saying, you know, Mom, you can go back to work. And they discuss gemstones together. And, oh, but your father's a workaholic, blah, blah. I actually kind of liked that setup. But then once the actual show started, like the fantasy plot, I basically completely lost interest.
Yeah. On that note, I'll actually say I think the biggest selling point of it for me was that, you know, I went in thinking, okay, this protagonist is going to get trapped in another world. Well, they continuously keep calling him a surface dweller, which gives me some degree of hope that the things that happen in the first few minutes of the episode might actually be important and relevant later on.
Huh, that didn't even occur to me. I just thought his poor mom was just going to be sitting at that table for the rest of the season, slowly eating all of the food.
She might be.
And what is the deal with people pulling weapons out of their chests? I don't understand that. Why do people think that looks cool? Like, I totally understand the idea of having a spirit weapon that like materializes when you summon it. Like, that's cool. But pulling it out of your chest cavity, just no, thank you.
Like just like the actual weapon.
Yep.
Maybe they were watching too much Utena.
See, it kind of made sense in Utena, because Utena was a show that actually, like, dealt with, like, feminine and masculine symbolism and blah,
exactly.
Blah, blah, blah. But why would this show be doing it?
And the sword sequence was like a magical girl-esque type of sequence too.
Yeah. So I'm not that keen on the pulling the whole sword out of your chest business. Let's just, there are places you should pull a sword from, and that is not one of them. Anyway. Okay, so none of us were too thrilled with Endride, but I think I'm gonna at least give it one more episode, I guess. What do you think, Life?
I can say one thing for Endride, and it's kind of a shame to point even, but it's an anime original project, which is another thing it really has going for it. I wasn't sold on the episode, but knowing what it is, it looks like it's a real passion project for the creators. Like, one thing I noticed is that they actually took some of the sequence change screens, and they're 4:3 resolution, kind of giving you an old school feel. I mean, the whole thing kind of had an old school feel to me in general. I think that was intentional. It's kind of overshadowed by the fact that it's not very good.
Yeah. It sounds better hearing you talk about it.
Interestingly enough, I think the main character in Endride is the person who designed them was actually Nobuhiro Watsuki, the creator of the Kenshin manga.
There's actually some really big names working on Endride. They're not particularly meaningful to me, but I looked them up and I'm like, oh, these are all people that have been doing anime forever.
We'll hold out hope for that one, I suppose. Okay, our LB, you done ranting? You want to rant more at Endride's expense? So you got it out of your system.
No, I am just totally done with this series. I won't be coming back for more.
Okay, I guess it's okay. Considering the first episode nearly bored you to death, I guess we can accept that. Speaking of bored to death, not really. The Ace Attorney anime. I'd never played the Ace Attorney games, but after hearing people say good things about them for so many years, I always thought, I'd probably like them if I got a chance to play them. After watching this anime, I'm beginning to think, I don't know if I'd like these games, actually.
Actually, Karen, from what I've heard around, like, the anime didn't even do justice to the game. So...
That very well might be true, because it wasn't even that there was anything particularly bad about it, it's just that I just didn't find the mystery very interesting, and I didn't find the way...
They give it away.
Well...
Like, in the opening sequence, they tell you the answer.
Yeah, there's that, too.
Yeah, I guess they really did a poor job, because when you're playing the actual Ace Attorney games, like, they actually do a really good job of having you try to figure out the mystery, and along with collecting the evidence to bring the culprit down.
Yeah, and I did feel kind of a little bad at the end when, what's-her-name died. Huh? What?
Sorry. I was gonna say, if you want to see a better if you want to watch a better version of Ace Attorney, I recommend looking up the live-action movie. Like, that one actually really did a better job in capturing, like, the essence of the series.
See, that would probably be good, because I imagine it being really hammy.
Yeah. And the best part too is that they were able to capture the entire first game in one film, and it actually was very well paced too.
Okay, well, that's good to know. This show, it was almost like, I think for this to be really entertaining, like, everything about it would have to be over the top, and it really just wasn't.
Yeah,
I think it was trying to be.
How was the scenes where they went like, objection, or hold it? Were those scenes very over the top and dramatized and exaggerated? Or did the actors do a poor job in those scenes?
They built it up, and then it was like, oh, right, that thing we all knew was going to happen.
It's just, didn't
not the
work.
reactions when the perpetrators would react to the evidence. Did they actually capture that down, or no?
They did get some of that with, like, hair flying off, or... Yeah, it wasn't particularly good, but they did it.
Yeah, at the end, I felt kind of bad that what's her name, his supervisor died, but I was like, do I actually care enough to watch the next episode and find out how she died? And I'm still kind of on the fence about that one, honestly.
It's definitely at the top of my drop list right now.
Gotcha.
I probably could get into it and enjoy it if I had more time or infinite time, but I didn't really get that much out of it. It's really, really hammy. I felt like it was aimed at, like, if you were to tell me that it were for 6-year-old children, I would believe it. That's kind of the feeling I walked away with at the end of it.
Oh, speaking of
Except
which,
for the murder. I mean, like the fact that the fact that someone is getting murdered is about the only thing in it that didn't strike me as something for children.
You were going to say, Sal?
Oh, speaking of which, did you know that in the Crunchyroll version of the series, you can actually change the subtitles to actually rename the characters as in the names they were called in the American version of the game?
Oh, really?
So you could actually change the main character's name into Phoenix Wright, which was his name in the West, versus his Japanese name, and so forth.
It's kind of cool that they bothered to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
The only downside is that with that option, it's just the name change, so they didn't go as far as to fully Americanize the setting to make it think that it takes place in LA, like how in the Western version does.
See, that would have been funny if there's this whole alternate subtitle track that just pretends reality is completely different from what it is, and they're actually in, like, Kansas or something.
I would watch that if I saw Tokyo and they were all calling it Kansas. That all of a sudden that would be
because that's how it was in the actual games. Like they're basically obviously in Japan, but they're calling it like LA or California.
Okay, so like fan subbers out there, if you want a fun project, make Ace Attorney watchable for us.
If you want to make us watch this anime.
But yeah, if you want to see a better version of it, either watch the live action version or Capcom actually released a collection of the first 3 games on the 3DS. So if you have a 3DS, you can hunt that version down.
Okay, I mean, I'd like to say, oh, I'll probably play it someday. But the thing is, just like with anime, I have so many games I'd like to eventually play that are so far ahead of that on the list, I probably won't. But I'm glad it's out there. I'm glad it exists.
But the good news is that with the first Ace Attorney game, it's only like I think 5 cases, and so I'd say like it's maybe less than 20 hours.
Yeah, but,
like,
Sal, do I kill any monsters? Do I get any loot?
No, but you get the sheer glory of just busting the criminals and the reaction.
Anyway. Alright, so we were disappointed with Ace Attorney, but there are better options out there for Ace Attorney fans, so we're not going to lose too much sleep over it. Moving on to 100, which I was a little bored by. It just kind of seemed like the sort of generic Magic High School anime of the season. Not really terrible or anything, but just utterly predictable and whatever. Life, did you like this any better than me?
I'm kind of holding off my verdict until I see what they're going to do with it next episode. But yeah, it was more or less how I felt. We've seen this a dozen times. I saw one particularly funny, relevant joke on Reddit, anonymous user. It's called 100 because there are 99 other anime with the exact same plot.
Yeah. And just to clarify, I didn't even really mind the Irregular at Magic High School. I know a lot of people hated that show, but I thought it was okay. So I'm not like averse to the whole genre. It seemed like this was just yet another one that didn't really have anything special about it.
I think it's specifically too that this. I mean, if you've Infinite Stratos was the one I think that really started this type of like where everyone has these magical mechs. They go to school and they fight to save the world, and they're the elites of the world. And that exact that Harry Potter with magical mechs has been done like 4 or 5 other shows now. Yeah. And that's like the first episodes of each one. If you were to line them up and watch them back to back, they're almost identical.
Yeah, I may give this one another episode out of idle curiosity, but it's looking pretty high on the to-be-dropped pile at the moment. Okay, so we're going to move on to Bakuon, or I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is the one about girls on motorcycles, and usually I'm a pretty easy target to please when it comes to these people just doing cute things and having fun shows. Like, as long as it's like pleasant and light, I usually enjoy it, but I think this one kind of has an uphill battle with me just because I am so utterly bored by cars and motorcycles that there were actually some funny jokes in this episode, but I still was kind of bored just because I find motorcycles that boring. So I was kind of biased against the show for reasons that weren't its fault. LB, you saw this one, right?
Yeah, I did. I laughed a few times, but I mean, it wasn't that great. I think the problem is, for just me, is that I was actually looking forward to this one. I saw some promotional videos, I saw some key visuals, and it looked good. I was looking forward to it, and then I saw it, and it was just like, yeah, not that great. So I think it was more I was putting too much pressure on it to be really funny and really cute, and it just didn't live up to my own personal expectations, which is more on me than the series.
Yeah, so kind of like with me and Kuma Miko.
Yeah.
The games you play with yourself to make anime jump through hoops. What'd you think of this, Life?
It was actually one of my favorite new shows. I don't really care about cars or motorbikes, all that kind of stuff much either. I just thought it was really funny.
Well, there were a couple of really good jokes. Like, there's one where, I forget, I don't know names at this point, but, like, the blonde girl wipes out horribly and practically, like, wraps her spine around a pole, and the main character just really quickly is like, is the bike okay?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that was like a blink and you miss it joke. But it was...
Yeah. The motorbike, I mean, a lot of it, too, wound up being me going and doing research after the fact and finding out things about the bikes and what they did with the show and realizing, oh, that was actually really clever. And, I mean, sure, that's not actually in the show itself, so I can't blame anyone for missing that. Like all of the characters, one of the big things I'm seeing on Twitter is everyone's comparing the characters to the characters from a show called Top Gear.
Oh, yeah, I'm somewhat familiar with Top Gear.
The character that never takes her helmet off is a top, like there's the Stig, I think is the name, and I watched just a couple of clips on YouTube, like, oh yeah, this is obviously what they're going for.
So that's what my husband was talking about. he was watching with me and he's like, oh, and she's the Stig, and I was like, why are you speaking in tongues? And he said something about Top Gear, but I wasn't really listening.
I didn't know anything about Top Gear before watching it either. I'm not a vehicle enthusiast in the least. I still thought it was pretty funny.
Okay, it's weird that, like, I can admit it was funny, but it's just like I see motorcycles and I'm like, meh, go away.
Like one joke that you could easily miss in the show is, like they've got the Honda that is all dirty talking, and you move on later and they talk about how boring the Hondas are, and you realize that was a Honda that she was talking about. Like, well, no wonder she didn't think it was boring.
Oh, right. I remember like hearing the things the Honda was saying. I was like, oh wow, I'm surprised they actually made that joke. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like it's actually funny enough. I really should stick with it. I just have to get over my aversion to motor vehicles of any sort. So we're done with Bakuon for this week. Moving on to Jojo, and I confess I don't know what's up with Jojo. I just know that people are very passionate about it, but I know Sal has watched it and people are very into it. So Sal, tell us what we need to know about JoJo.
Well, I guess I'll say it for the record. It's a JoJo series, like, it's ridiculous, it's funny, it's over the top, it's cheesy, and it's violent. The one interesting thing about the JoJo for this show, Josuke, like, he's a very apologetic character. Like, if he does something or he thinks he did something wrong, but the moment someone makes fun of his pompadour, he gets really mad and wants to pick a fight with you.
What is JoJo about?
Posing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it is. It's about manly men posing.
Oh yeah, Life, you watched this too, didn't you? Because you've seen everything. So.
I no, actually I haven't.
Oh yeah, and the interesting part about the main character is that. All right, so ever since JoJo Part 3, they introduced these things called Stan. They're basically like personas from the Persona series. They're like an extension of your body, and you can use them, and they have different abilities. And if they take damage, you take damage as well.
So it's like Persona. Okay, that's interesting.
It's like Persona, yeah.
But anyways, like, the main character, Josuke Stan, his power is, like, no matter how much he beats you up, like, after you take whatever damage he does to you, your wounds basically heal right away. But if he messes you up in a very messed up way, there's a chance that you can end up deformed after your body heals. And he uses this power in a couple clever ways in the first episode.
That's kind of messed up.
And the other funny thing too is that this JoJo, he's actually like the illegitimate son of another JoJo from one of the previous shows who ended up cheating on his wife, which kind of contradicted against his view on like on Japanese people and stuff.
Oh, alrighty then.
Well, because long story short, like, the first JoJo took place during, like, I think it was like the 50s, 60s.
There's a whole racism thing
after the Victorian era. The second one took place during, like, I think World War II. The third one took place during the 80s, and this one is taking place during the 90s. So.
Okay, Life, you were going to say something about this show?
Yeah, I was just asking Sal. It's kind of like a whole racism theme going on with one of the dads.
Yeah, basically he was the main character from Part 2 and the old guy in Part 3, Joseph Joestar.
Right. Yeah, the funny thing about JoJo is that I haven't seen it, but so many of my friends love it. that I've heard so much about it, I could probably talk like I have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, I know you couldn't get past the first episode of Jojo since you didn't really care for the characters. Okay, why are you doing these things with these characters if I don't really care about them?
I have a very, very short list of pet peeves for things I really hate to see in stories. And one of them involves killing the dog to get sympathy.
Oh. Okay, now I don't want to watch it either.
I will say this, though, like, part 1, like, that whole segment, I think lasted less than 11 episodes. Like, once you get to actually part 2, that's when the show actually gets, like, really good. Like Joseph, Joseph when he was young, he was actually a very fun character, because the way he fights, he basically does, like, very witty techniques to try to outsmart his opponents, you know, and he does, like, a lot of, like, crafty, manipulative stuff, too, to try to get the upper hand.
I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll give in and watch JoJo, because it's like, if you don't watch JoJo, there's like this whole parallel universe that you're not privy to, apparently, where all this makes sense, so.
The whole series has like it's almost like an old school anime, like animated with modern day technology.
Well, it is pretty old school, isn't it?
Well, it's based on a somewhat old manga, right? I thought JoJo's Bizarre Adventure had been around for a while.
Yep, it started in the 80s, and as of now, like, the series is like 8 parts.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know they go through like Nazi Germany at one point, right?
Yep, that was part 2, and then silly enough, like the Nazis ended up being the good guys for that one moment, just because they had a common enemy to fight in that arc.
Well, right. JoJo's the kind of show that finds a way to make the Nazis the good guys.
Okay, that is the first thing I've ever heard about JoJo that genuinely intrigues me. Like, how can this be?
There's also Mayan vampires, also vampire squirrels.
Vampire squirrels and good Nazis. Okay, I'm gonna have to catch up. All right. Okay, so that's enough on JoJo for this week. I'm sure we won't be able to stop Sal from talking about JoJo more in the upcoming weeks. So, all right, now we're moving on to shorts. Something that kind of surprised me. I did not see this coming. Brotherhood Final Fantasy. Part of this whole project they're doing with the launch of Final Fantasy 15. I guess they're doing one of their Square Enix multimedia combo package things. So it was about a 9-minute short. I don't know if they're all going to be 9 minutes or it was just the first episode was. But here's the thing with the show. The first thing they do is they go to a diner, right? And then the second thing they do is they have a meal around a campfire, right? So they just keep eating. So at first it just seemed like it was going to be like Final Fantasy diners, drive-ins, and dives, you know?
Yeah.
And then later, when they start actually fighting and stuff, I was like, I don't care anymore. I want them to just like go to another diner. So, have I mentioned I'm not terribly excited for Final Fantasy 15? Sal, you saw this one, right? So what did you think?
Well, from what I remember seeing I'll say this, like, based on the whole experience, they kind of nailed the kind of important aspect of where they're going with Final Fantasy 15, where it's basically just a bunch of friends just going on a road trip, hanging out, eating, doing all these things, and all of a sudden, like, they get attacked by monsters and all these other things.
But who even needs the monsters? This is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
LB?
They do seem unnecessary.
I actually meant to watch this one, but then I got distracted by like dinner and Assassination Classroom, and I just didn't get around to it. I promise I will watch it before next week, though.
Okay, you have to watch them like sit in the diner. It's epic.
Okay.
Life?
Yeah, I watched it just before the podcast, actually. What else is there to even say?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm hoping that at least the second episode will probably be a lot better since it was like a 10-minute short, so we'll see.
I don't know if the whole series is 10 minutes though, or if they're doing some weird thing.
I guess I can say one thing for it. I thought it was neat to see the 3D or the flashing effect where they're fighting, where they're like just teleporting around. That kind of effect has been around in FF games in 3D form for a long time. It was interesting to see them do it that way in more of a 2D format, which is nothing else to say other than, that's kind of a cool technique.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I even noticed. I just saw the monsters and I was like, go back to the diner. I'm kind of hung up on diners, if you hadn't noticed.
Speaking of which, Karen, like, did you or your husband play the demo of 15, like, before watching the anime?
No, the most recent Final Fantasy game I played is I did play 13, but I didn't play any of the sequels to 13. I didn't play 14. I haven't played the demo, so...
I'm guessing you had a bad experience with 13 like many people, right?
I didn't hate 13. I liked aspects of it, but it definitely, was not as close to my heart as the earlier Final Fantasies, that's for sure. So it's definitely... Final Fantasy's been on kind of a downward slope with me. So we'll see. I mean, I haven't played FF15 yet, so it's possible. Maybe it'll just be really fun from a mechanical perspective. I don't know.
I think the hope is that the director worked on Crisis Core and Final Fantasy Type 0, which I heard both of those games are pretty good. So that could be the hope, that this could be the Final Fantasy to redeem Final Fantasy. And the other thing, too, is that I heard that the former president that ruined Square left. So the newer guy I think that with this new guy being in, I think he's done some better stuff in the company since Bravely Default came out of it, and that series was good. And the Star Ocean game coming out seems pretty good. So maybe Square's finally on that track of getting better again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try not to be too pessimistic about it. I've just kind of been mad at Square Enix for pretty much everything they've done for like years. I
just remember the director saying one thing about the game where he wanted the design philosophy to be that you only have to press one button. And thinking to myself, there's absolutely no way I want to play that.
Yeah, that sounds awful. All right, well, I'm gonna try not to be too pessimistic, but I'm not that excited for either the anime or the game at this point with Final Fantasy. So, let's move on to Space Patrol Luluco. What? I'm sorry?
I was gonna say, from the one button part, from what I saw in the demo, it was essentially kind of like Kingdom Hearts, where you select the attack command and then you chain attacks like that, and then you select your magic and skills and you chain them that way. So it's kind of Kingdom.
We still don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying that. That's it.
There's more to it. I gotcha.
One of my favorite games is Vagrant Story. You know how many buttons you push in that goddamn game?
Oh yeah, I know that game you have to manage menus upon menus upon menus, from what I heard. But
I like visual novels, so I mean, if it's an interesting story, I would still play it. But I'll wait for the verdict.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on now to Space Patrol Luluco, one of Trigger's shows this season. And I was watching this, I just kept thinking, like, what did they put in the coffee at Trigger? That must be, like, a joke people have been making for 5 years already, but still, I mean, you have to wonder, like, is it legal? I don't know, I don't have much to say about this short, other than it was, like, very much Trigger's distinctive style, but it was, like, so frenetic and over the top. It made me wonder, how did I ever watch all of Kill La Kill, which was like a full series that was like this all the time? I was like, wow, that must have taken some stamina on my part, because even like 7 minutes of this is a bit much.
I don't know, like, it's weird. Like, I enjoy like the zany animations and some of the randomness, but for me, like, because it's like a 5-minute show, like, I really felt like 5 minutes just wasn't enough to kind of tell me whether I should watch the show or not. Like, I need a little bit more, like maybe 10 minutes. But because the show is, like, directed by Imaishi, you know, and Gurren Lagann Kill la Kill, and a lot of, like, the main Gainax guys at Trigger, I'm hoping that the second episode will be the one, or third will be the one to kind of win me over.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep up with it in hopes that maybe, you know, whatever kind of caffeine they're imbibing, I can kind of absorb through the screen and get my chores done faster, I guess. I don't know.
I did like the premise. I did like the premise of what caused Luluco to join the Space Patrol, so...
I don't even remember. It all went by so fast.
Oh, it was basically like her dad accidentally ate this illegal pill that he confiscated from a criminal that caused him to become frozen.
Oh, right. Okay, now I remember, yeah.
Basically, the Space Patrol don't want to use their own budget to free him, so they're forcing Luluco to pay out of her own pocket to save her own dad.
Poor Luluco. LB, did you catch this one?
Didn't get around to watching this one. Sorry.
Did you like Kill la Kill? I don't remember.
No, I hated Kill la Kill.
Okay, then you're probably don't want to bother to pick this one up, because it is very much in that style. So,
what do you think of other stuff, LB, like Inferno Cop and Little Witch Academia?
I really liked Little Witch Academia. I thought that it was really cute, sweet, very well done. Everything else Trigger has done, I've just not been a fan of.
No panty and stocking and garter belt?
No panty and stocking and garter belt, no Kill la Kill.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Panty and stocking, that was Gainax before that team broke off and became
It's
Trigger,
the same
right?
people.
But right,
yes.
Okay.
But that is kind of relation, since that was directed by Imaishi as well. So.
Okay, I was just confusing myself for a moment there, and wanted to make sure I had the studio hegemony correct.
All the same director.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, that was also the time frame when Imaishi was coming up with the ideas for Kill la Kill.
That kind of makes sense. All right, so we're going to move on to the next short, Pan de Peace, and this is another one where, as much as I like anime about bread, 5 minutes is really hard for you to give you enough to latch on to, because, okay, it was cute, and they were asking each other, would you like to be my bread buddy? But all that really happened in this episode is we found out they are girls and they like bread. That is all that happened.
No, there's a little more than that. They're girls and they like bread and they like girls.
Oh, yeah, good point.
So it's a Yuri bread series.
Well, how could you have a bread series without Yuri? I don't know. I'm kind of like, this should have been exactly what I expected, but it's just like, I was like, come on, make it like 7 minutes or 8 minutes. Give me something to work with here.
Yeah, like 10. At least no lower than 10.
Yeah, because Lovely Muco, I think, if memory serves, was like 10 minutes, and that seemed just about right. Like, it was just enough without wearing out its welcome. And whereas I'm kind of annoyed that Panda Piece has enough time for, like, one joke per episode, so. Anyway.
Yeah, pretty much.
Life, any other thoughts on it?
No, I've already blown my one joke on it.
Okay. So, the last thing I've got on the list is Shonen Ashibe Go Goma-chan. It's just a cute little short about, I think he's a seal? Little baby seal?
It's a seal.
Yeah. Anyway, it's based on a fairly old manga, and I knew this looked familiar, so because I believe this has been adapted to anime before, and this is just the next incarnation. And it's just really cute. The little seal follows the boy to school, and his friends are like, "Oh my god, it's a seal! It's so cute!" And you, as the viewer, are like, "Of course, it's cute. It's a seal, yeah." So this is going to be my replacement for Lovely Muco now. Who else watched this?
I watched it.
What'd you think?
I think that seal is really lucky that he's cute. Everyone and their uncle would have murdered him if he wasn't cute, and they would have eaten him.
Yeah, that was kind of scary.
they're all worried about the mom. First, he's worried about his dad's going to eat it. Then he's worried that, or no, he wants to eat it. Then his dad sees it and is worried the mom wants to eat it.
And I like the way they're afraid the mom's going to eat it because she's really frugal.
Right. No other reason, just that she wants to save money.
She'd just be like, "Wow, food showed up on our doorstep. Better cook it."
And they're very adamant every time when they give the reason why they're not going to eat it. They're very adamant about the fact that it's because he's cute.
You know, there was some commentary there about how beauty is currency in our world, and whatever. So not a whole lot to say about that one, except it's adorable and pretty funny, and I'm gonna definitely keep watching that to fill the little animal-based short that I apparently need in my life. So, okay, phew, I think we got through our massive list of shows that just started. Did we miss anything?
I think that's it.
Yeah, I mean, we covered all the shows that I watched.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry. I feel like I just ran a marathon or something. We've just been sitting down talking for a little while. But next week, obviously, we're going to watch the second episode of a bunch of these. And oh yeah, just for listeners who may be wondering, it's Wednesday now as we're recording this, and shows that premiered today, including Super Lovers and Twin Exorcists, we did not watch because we didn't want everyone to be trying to watch them at the last minute before the podcast, so those we're going to cover next week. And I think there's actually 3 or 4 that premiered today, so we'll have our work cut out for us next week as well. But in addition to catching up on the spring season, maybe we'll start doing some theme stuff. I'm not ready to catch up on Assassination Classroom yet, but maybe we'll come up with something. We'll see. Something to keep the listeners hooked in between Pande Peace jokes, you know. Okay, so are we ready to sign off for this evening?
I guess we are.
I guess so.
Okay, so thanks for joining us, LB. You think you're going to be back next week?
As long as you'll have me.
Yay! Okay. It was possible you could have been like, well, I thought it was going to be fun to be on this podcast, but actually I hate all you people. So that could have happened.
Remember that last time LB had a serious situation he had to take care of, so.
Yeah, real life got in the way.
Yeah, you're not allowed to have a real life anymore. You're on a podcast now.
Hey, and responsibilities, everyone has them. You gotta prioritize in them.
No responsibilities. Just podcasts.
Your daughter. Think of your daughter.
Oh, that's right. Oh, damn it, Sal. All right, so we're gonna say goodnight for now. Thanks for listening, everybody. Good night.
When I says.
7, there's a large element of you had to be there because you have to understand how amazing it was in comparison to everything else.
Yeah,
when it came out. So
Right, everyone says that, and I'm just kind of sitting there like, wow, this is old. And I completely broke the game. Apparently, you're not supposed to beat the snake in the early part of the game with whatever the skill was.
Midgarzolum.
Yeah, you're not supposed to beat him, and I did. So I just used his
Nice.
ability to kill everything after that.
Nice.
So that might have been my own fault.